And welcome to Mom Matters, created by moms for moms. Menopause. It is a significant transition in a woman's life, typically occurring in the 40s and 50s, but for some may actually start in their 30s, believe it or not. This is a marking of the end of the menstrual cycle. So the postmenopausal stage, it's the years following this transition. It's a time of new beginnings and unique health considerations. Nutrition plays a critical role in supporting the body through this transition. So today we're joined by registered dietitian Erin Green. Erin, so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, okay, such an incredibly important conversation. Nutrition, always an important topic.
Yeah.
But especially as a woman's body transitions through the decade, sometimes decade and a half, of menopause. Let's talk about how this impacts bone health. I know that as women we hear about this, you know, avoiding osteoporosis as you get older, but that all starts during menopause, right?
Right, because menopause is signaled by our body producing less estrogen.
Okay.
And estrogen is a hormone that is critical for remodeling bone and rebuilding that bone structure. So if we don't have estrogen, we're not going to be rebuilding that bone structure the same way. So once a woman has gone a full year without a menstrual period, that point in time is menopause. After that really marks this change, like you said, this new journey of their body doesn't have the same estrogen and the same kinds of hormonal cascade that it did before.
Yeah.
And we see bone health start to suffer from that.
Okay, so what are some good everyday foods though that women can do or eat to maintain calcium, and how much calcium should we be consuming at that point?
So we want to see about 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day.
Okay.
And if you consider that a serving of dairy, like a 8-ounce glass of milk, will have around 300, then you're going to be looking at 4 servings of dairy a day.
Okay.
If you were relying on that food alone to get your calcium, you can also get it from soy, tofu specifically, that's been processed in like a calcium sort of fluid. Then you're going to get calcium from that. You do get it from leafy greens, from, you know, in smaller amounts from other plant foods like beans and nuts. So we do get really good calcium across the board in diets, but we really rely on those dairy servings or a high protein dairy alternative that actually has that calcium. Read the labels, because if it's a dairy alternative, it might have a different amount of that calcium. So
All right.
you want to pay attention to that.
And is all calcium equal? Do we have to pay attention to the kind that we're consuming? And then are there other supplements that help with absorption? How do we navigate that?
Well, generally speaking, we want to get calcium from food.
Okay.
So if you, even fortified foods like orange juice will have calcium in it. Again, we talk about
What
the
about
tofu.
dry cereals?
Yep,
sometimes
dried
does?
cereals will, exactly. And so if we can get calcium from the diet, we tend to see that nutrients that are obtained from the diet kind of come in this symbiotic package. And so you actually get better absorption and you're getting other nutrients from those foods, right? And so we want to get it from the diet, but talk to your doctor. If you have significant needs, you might be prescribed a supplement. And don't play around with that. Like if your doctor prescribes a supplement, don't think like, oh, I'm just going to change my diet. Work on the diet, but also take the supplement in the meantime until you are given other guidance.
Be a good student.
Yes, getting it from the supplement can really help.
Okay, and what about vitamin D? Because doesn't that also play a role in some calcium
Absolutely.
absorption? Okay.
Yeah, so vitamin D helps us absorb the calcium. And it's actually kind of hard to get vitamin D from the diet. We get it from fortified milks and dairy products. You can get it from some eggs. You can get it actually from mushrooms that have been treated with UV light. I know, crazy.
Oh, seriously? No way.
It's really fun. Nutrition is so fun.
Yes.
So we can get vitamin D from the diet, but it actually becomes pretty hard to meet our vitamin D needs.
Okay.
And so you might be, again, prescribed a supplement. A lot of people, we make it from the sunlight. So we make vitamin D from the sunlight, but where we live, even in sunny summertime weather in Boise, you may not have the same sun exposure to actually stimulate that vitamin D production. And so a lot of people, especially here in Idaho, are going to need a vitamin D supplement.
All right, what about D plus K? That's kind of new in my world.
Yeah, so vitamin K is also contributing to bone health, and we get it from leafy greens, lots of different veggies. So again, this kind of starts building that case for how you build your diet around these natural whole foods. And yes, you might be prescribed a supplement that has D and K if you're not getting enough vitamin K in your diet.
All right, let's transition a little bit over to heart health. So we talked about how menopause impacts bone health, but it also impacts the ticker.
Yes.
So When do we need to start focusing on that?
Yeah. Heart health is so important for women, especially over that age 55. And we talk about stroke risk. Over 55, it doubles every decade after age 55, stroke risk does.
Wow.
So, and they're related. So cardiovascular health is related to stroke risk as well. So we look at like the whole cardiovascular system as needing attention. So fiber is really important, healthy fats are really important, and just maintaining a healthy weight as much as you can. So when we look at dietary changes, you know, again, start with the fiber. Fruits and vegetables, any plant food is going to have fiber. We get different soluble fiber from like oats and oatmeal, apples, different fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds are really huge because those also have the healthy fats that are really critical for heart health. We hear about omega-3s.
Yes.
So that has to do with inflammation and that heart healthy fat that helps your body just function normally. You know, think of it like keeping the oil in the engine going. You need gas in the engine to make it go, but you need oil in the engine to keep it from breaking down.
Yes.
So if you can think of those healthy fats as being kind of the oil in the engine, that will help you just kind of prioritize the fatty fish. Walnuts, flax seeds will help contribute to those omega-3s as well.
Okay. All right. So healthy fats for the heart. I also imagine too, movement plays a very important role with this as well too, right?
Yes.
To keep the cardiovascular healthy. I'm going to I think we should take a break here because next I want to talk about sodium and sugar.
Okay.
Those major focuses, which, I mean, let's face it, Erin, those flavorings make the food taste good, right?
Absolutely, yes.
That's what I think we end up craving is I need something salty, I need something sweet. So how do we navigate that in menopause? We'll talk about that coming up right after this. And welcome back to Mom Matters. We are talking about the role nutrition plays when entering into menopause and those postmenopausal years. Basically, how do we navigate food moving forward? Erin, we got done talking about the importance of bone health and heart health, especially as we enter into menopause, as our nutritional needs shift a bit because our body no longer produces estrogen, which is such a major factor when it comes to the heart health and bone health. Now I want to talk about the roles that salt and sugar play in a menopausal woman's diet. Why is it important that we pay closer attention to that as we get older?
Well, most people need to pay attention to salt and sugar, but you're right. Paying more attention to that as we get older, you know, fat redistribution happens with that lower estrogen level. And so a lot of women will experience that redistribution around the midsection. Well, if we are eating, you know, food options that are highly processed and nutrient poor, which tend to be the things in our food environment that have the additional salt and sugar, then our bodies aren't going to have the nutrition they need to actually like function and maintain that lean body mass. So if we live in this environment where highly palatable, high sugar, high salt foods are readily available, and we have mood swings and we have lack of sleep and we have low energy and hectic schedules, all of these things kind of contribute to that reaching for those kinds of foods.
Because they're easy.
So they are easy and they taste good. So you get that little ping, you know, when you eat them.
I've actually heard that very specifically those types of foods are designed that way.
Yes.
To make themselves appealing. So you want to reach towards them because psychologically and the way the human brain and body's created, we are meant to crave salt and sugar.
Yeah, so continually fighting against this can often feel like a really negative experience for people.
Yes.
So I tend to gravitate toward, well, let's look at the company that your sugar and salt keep. So the company it keeps. If you're getting salt in a salad dressing that has all kinds of colorful, you know, leafy greens and different veggies and fruits in it and maybe some nuts and seeds like we just talked about, I'm not going to pick on that sodium in that salad dressing. But if you're eating like a nutrient poor empty snack that's not going to be very satisfying and it's not moving you any closer to your health goals, I'm going to probably pick on that sodium a little bit and shift like how can we build out a little more nutrition. Same thing with sugar. If you're getting maybe you know, a yogurt bowl with flavored yogurt and some fruit and some granola on it, there's some really great nutrition package and it's nice and satisfying. But if you're having sugar from another source and you're expecting
Like a
that
box of candy.
Yeah, and you're expecting that to hold you longer,
Yes,
it just
yes.
doesn't have that same nutrition. So we're not demonizing foods necessarily. We're just looking at like how can we shift the way we include those very delicious and tasty items, but also look out for our health as well.
Okay, so let's talk about some easy swaps to cut back on salt without losing a lot of flavor. I myself, I love salt.
Yes.
So yeah.
I do too. I'm an
Saltier
athlete.
the better.
I know.
Yes, I know, right? Like the saltier the better.
Yes.
But even in that situation as athletes, or you know, someone, you know, I struggle to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Right. So I am constantly adding salts, but even with that, I still need to be mindful.
Yeah, so think about how you can add flavor. That's usually
Okay.
what we're after when we're adding salt to foods,
Yep.
is that flavor. So herbs, spices, you can add it with like citrus, like a zest of citrus will really
Yes.
elevate something.
Lemon
without-
rind is one of my absolute favorites.
Absolutely, or like lime zest is really
Yeah.
fantastic to add. Think about, you know, right now we're in summertime, so if you have an herb garden, how can you put some fresh herbs on your dishes? And then if you do want to add salt, put a little bit in your hand so you can visually see what you're putting on there and put it on right before you eat, because then you're going to get that stronger salt flavor on the palate.
I love the fact that you had mentioned pour it into your hand.
Yeah.
That is such an impactful, simple thing to do, a great habit, because I think it's easy to season your food and not be aware of how much you're putting on it.
Right.
Plus, from a culinary standpoint, my grandmother taught me you never pour your salt directly into your food. You always watch and see,
Yes.
because it's easy, first of all, to dump too much.
Yep.
Sometimes a lid falls off and then you ruin your
gosh.
dish, right? But also, you don't want to oversalt, because then that overpowers the flavor that you're really trying to bring forward.
And
So,
also
yeah.
recognize that you can kind of shift your own palate. Like if you are a salt lover,
Yeah.
you can shift that a little bit, use a little bit less salt, try those herbs and spices, try like adding flavor in different ways, and you will naturally gravitate a little more toward that less salt in your cooking.
Yes, and I love the fact too that you pointed out the herbs. I've had such an incredible time discovering so many different herbs. It's actually been a really great experience and a whole new perspective, not realizing all the different flavor profiles there really are out there. I think we tend to limit ourselves because that's what our society does, right? We're exposed to only a very certain aspect of palates, but then once you step back and go, okay, you know, I'm no longer going to rely on those things, and you start looking, there's a lot. I had no idea how many different types of basil there are.
I know.
There's a gazillion different types of basil.
And they all have a different, slightly different flavor.
There's lemon, there's like a licorice one, there's some like, it's a lot of fun. There's even a chocolate one.
It is really fun.
That's
and
always
this
really
kind of
fun.
inspires you to try some new recipes and
Yes.
kind of branch out with your cooking. And let's not forget that herbs and spices also add nutrition. So we see a lot of anti-inflammatory properties
That's
with
a good
these
point.
foods.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of added fiber with some of the herbs. And so it really boosts nutrition while boosting that flavor.
Erin, herbs are where it's at.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to say. Okay.
I agree.
What about that sweet tooth, too? Herbs, I think, can also play a role in there, because my mind goes to the stevia leaf. But how do we navigate the world of sweeteners, right? Because you also have artificial sweeteners that some say are good and some say are bad.
Yeah.
We got agave, we got honey. What do we do here, Erin?
So when I'm working with somebody, I kind of ask them like, what kinds of foods do you tend to crave, or how do these foods show up for you? And start to get to know the pattern. And you can just do this for yourself by kind of looking at like, how do sweet things show up in my life? A lot of times it's for comfort, or it's for celebration, or it's a reward. And so start paying attention to some of those kind of behaviors and patterns. You also might find that sweets are used to like boost your mood, or maybe it's just the quick things that you keep around your house tend to be like these high sugar items. So if you find yourself identifying those patterns, then you start looking at ways we can kind of readjust these patterns. I do like the idea of trying like, okay, try a little fruity dessert, because you're getting some nutrition in that fruit while you're getting that sweet thing. But let's be honest that eating like, you know, some berries on some ice cream is a very different experience than a chocolate chip cookie. So be realistic about what foods you really enjoy. And that kind of brings us into the whole like being mindful about your eating, really tasting the flavors, and allowing yourself to enjoy those treats when you include them.
Oh, I like that. Being present with your dessert.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
fiber.
Yeah.
Huge part of our diet that I think a lot of people miss. and let's talk about why it's so important during menopause that we pay attention to fiber.
Well, we talked about heart health earlier.
Yes.
Fiber plays a really key role in managing cholesterol levels, keeping digestive system flowing. Again, we kind of think of the oil in the engine analogy. So there's two different kinds of fiber. There's soluble and insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber tends to form a gel when it's introduced to fluid. So think about oatmeal.
Yeah.
When you make oatmeal and it kind of forms that like thicker gelatinous kind of thing, that's soluble fiber that you're getting from the oats. Insoluble fiber is like the connective tissue in the plant. So think of like a salad that has kind of like the leafy greens that you have to chew a lot more, or the skin of an apple kind of thing. That's insoluble. So we want these two kinds of fiber. And I just mentioned fruit, vegetable, whole grain examples. We get them from plant foods. The other cool thing about fiber is it can really help you feel fuller longer. So again, we kind of go back to that whole idea, how do we reduce salt and sugar, and how do we, kind of manage some of these appetite swings? Well, if you're eating higher fiber overall, you're not only helping your ticker, and you're not only helping your digestive system, which also changes during menopause, but you're also helping your body feel more satisfied longer, and you're getting a whole other package of nutrients with each of these foods.
Wonderful. Okay. And what are some of your favorite high fiber foods, though, that you mentioned? Because you mentioned oats, you'd mentioned apples. What do you personally kind of gravitate towards?
Yeah. So one surprising one would be popcorn.
Oh,
so,
yes. That's a great one,
it has really good fiber, and you get that nice satisfying crunch. I really like cucumbers because you have the seeds, and if you leave some of the skin on, you're getting some really good nutrition there.
I love cucumbers, and 'tis the season, right?
Berries are a very high fiber fruit, so raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, anything with the little seeds in them is going to contribute to that fiber. Again, I talk about salads, but don't just think of the leafy greens. Can you put carrots and beets and nuts and fruit and all kind, dried cranberries in that salad? You're contributing to the overall fiber mixture and the nutrient package that you're getting in that food.
Okay, and now let's talk about protein. So we've talked about controlling sugar and salt, the importance of fiber. Now, what role does protein play when it comes to muscular health for women going through menopause?
Yeah, so if we can go all the way back to the bone health,
yes,
your bones are actually stimulated to stay strong because of the tension that the muscle places on them. So as we, enter into that postmenopausal period, our bodies have a harder time retaining the muscle and the lean body mass. So protein then becomes this really important nutrient that helps retain that lean body mass. So when we talk about numbers, we might say like you can, aim for up to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight if you want to do the math on that.
Okay.
But you don't have to get complicated with it. Add protein to every single meal and your snacks too. Just make sure you're getting a strong protein source. And when I say strong protein, I'm talking like chicken, fish, especially the fatty fish with the omega-3s that we talked about.
Like salmon. Okay.
You can get Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are really high protein dairy products. So again, you're getting that calcium for bone health. You can focus on maybe some of the plant-based proteins. So there's roasted chickpeas are a really popular one, or even lentil crackers and chips that are made with some kind of beans and lentils. Then you're getting fiber for gut health, you're getting protein from the lentils, you're getting a little,
really good one.
Crispy snack. And so there's creative ways that you can not only meet your nutrient needs, but also explore kind of that enjoyment of foods too.
Okay, and then what role does soy play when it comes to women and their menopausal symptoms?
Yeah, so soy actually has a unique interaction in the body where it can kind of mimic some of the estrogen compounds that we have in our bodies. So as we're producing less estrogen, we have introducing soy into the diet, which can speak to those receptors in a way that, we don't have the estrogen to do so. So not only can soy help with some of the maybe hot flashes, sleep disturbances, soy is high protein, so you're getting the protein there, and it has really good fiber. So yes.
I didn't know soy had fiber.
Yes, so like soybeans and different soy products, you'll get really good fiber from it. Soy milk, not as much. But again, you can put this into your diet and kind of weave it in there and hit on a bunch of different nutrients, not just the protein, not just the benefit of the soy.
And what I like so far too that we're talking about, Erin, is that there's a lot of different foods that kind of check the boxes in a lot of different categories.
Yes.
So it's not like that you're managing your salt and your sugar over here, and then you got to get your fiber and then your protein as well, and then you have to consume all these different things. There's a lot of food types that actually fall under these categories.
Yes.
Which is really, really good.
It is really cool. I actually listened to a podcast recently, I have to mention, that talked about increased Alzheimer's risk postmenopausal in women. And one of the things she points out is like the overlap of how these foods do like double duty. So like, for example, she mentions orange fruits and vegetables. So like apricots and persimmons and mangoes.
Oh, I love all those.
But then you start talking about, they also have fiber and they also have all of these heart healthy nutrients. So
wonderful. Okay, when we come back, we're going to dive a little more into vitamins and minerals that women should be really focusing on during this transition time. That's right after this break. And welcome back to Mom Matters. We're talking about the importance that nutrition plays during menopause and the years after, how we need to navigate this to optimize on our health as women as we enter into this new chapter in our life. Okay, so we already talked about the importance of bone health. We talked about heart health. We talked about the diet, how to navigate those issues through protein intake, fiber, watching salt and sugar. Now we're going to focus a little more on the vitamins and minerals and how they factor into this chapter in our lives. So, Erin, tell us, what are some of those vitamins and minerals we really should be, paying attention to during menopause?
Yeah, well, we've talked about the big players, the calcium, the vitamin D. We talked a little bit about vitamin K. So another good one would be potassium. This actually can help counterbalance some of the sodium you do eat. So if you can't quite part with the, some of those tasty high sodium snacks or something, introduce more potassium. So potassium we get from a lot of fruits and vegetables. Surprisingly, we tend to think of bananas for potassium, but we get more potassium from potatoes and avocados and kidney beans than we do bananas. So bananas are fantastic. I say include them, but look to some of those other sources of potassium as well.
Potatoes and avocados, I love them.
I know, right?
Okay, good, yes.
And then you think of like magnesium. Plays an important role in bone health. We get that from nuts and seeds. We get it from some leafy greens, some animal foods. And so again, we start seeing like some of this overlap with some of the foods we've already talked about and how to incorporate some of those additional nutrients.
And I want to talk about magnesium here really quick since you brought that up, because I myself have actually discovered the importance that it plays in helping with muscle recovery. Going into this chapter of life, I mean, I used to work out a ton and I would recover relatively easy on the back end, right? I could do all these things and I'd be sore. But it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, what truck just hit me? Because that's what it feels like now, right? But with magnesium, it really helps with the body recovery so you can remain physically active.
So magnesium is an electrolyte and it also helps with like nerve conduction and muscle contraction. So it's a really important mineral that's constantly involved in those processes. We tend to see magnesium supplements being encouraged. And I would say like, have somebody take a look at your diet first before you start going in that route. But people who are embracing that increased magnesium also see benefits to their sleep. They see benefits to regularity in the bathroom, not just that muscle recovery.
Yeah, too. And I know some women, too, once they enter into menopause, start to get headaches. Magnesium plays a big role in helping manage that, too. I do want to share that. Alcohol. Let's talk about alcohol.
We kind of joked about like the fine wine that gets better with age. So alcohol, we have to be realistic about the role alcohol plays in our lives and the benefits or the risks that alcohol brings in. I'm going to be completely honest that alcohol is a toxin. It really needs to be viewed as a toxin. And, we tend to hear like these justifications for alcohol, can improve heart health and can, offer all of these health benefits. But I'm here to tell you that you can still get those health benefits from other foods and nutrients without the alcohol. Now, this isn't, me up here saying like nobody can enjoy their alcohol anymore. I think the important message is be wise about your alcohol consumption. Be aware of what role it's playing. Is it your stress reliever? Is it your companion? Is it something you do mindlessly just because everybody else is drinking and you don't even really care if you have a drink or not in your hand? There's plenty of non-alcoholic beverages available, or if you go to a bar, you can just get like a seltzer or, ask them to make you something that doesn't have alcohol in it.
Mocktails are amazing.
You can walk around with that and nobody's gonna say anything. That's the other kind of thing about alcohol is it's a very social sort of connector, right? But particularly for women that are in perimenopause, where you're having hot flashes, night sweats, sleep disturbances, the weight redistribution, alcohol doesn't help any of those.
I very transparently have completely tailored back just because of the impact. Again, the workouts, the muscles hurt. the drinking hurts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the recovery
you're
is
less
not the
likely
same.
to get up early in the morning and go to the
Yes.
gym, and your heart
Yes.
actually, needs to be cared for, and alcohol's not great for your heart health. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot of cascading, effects of that.
from that. Yeah, yeah.
sure.
On occasion, like with a celebration at a wedding
Yep.
or like a dinner.
Just be aware.
Yeah, exactly. Mindful consumption. Okay, let's talk about personalized nutrition. We've been talking about some really good guidances, but they're blanket statements, right? They're not one size fits all here. So why is it important that as women are approaching into this chapter of their life, they're actually thinking about maybe a little more of a customized approach?
Yeah, well, I can tell you, through my 18 years as a dietitian, I have worked with plenty of women that are entering this transition or are on the other side of it, and none of them have the exact same eating pattern or upbringing or traditions or cultural desires, food likes and dislikes. So those are some of the key components we look at with individualized nutrition approaches. There might also be like some food intolerances that develop over time. We talk about all this stuff about fiber, or including dairy and calcium, but sometimes some of those foods are less tolerated as people go on with age. And so a registered dietitian can help navigate that food world and also help you kind of zone in on, okay, I'm hearing you say that this is really important to you. Let's focus on that today and how you can build that routine and consistency in without having to overhaul or go on this really strict, kind of elimination diet that a lot of people tend to unfortunately fall prey to when they're in this kind of confusing time in their lives.
Absolutely. And I think it's very obvious when I state the fact that you're more successful when you're doing this with somebody who can hold you accountable and also support you, make you feel supported. And that's with anything, right? That's like with a workout plan. That's, with this, right? Making sure that you're staying on track, that you can do a checks and balances. I mean, navigating things alone is always difficult, let alone something as challenging as diet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you know how many women come to me and they're just like, I feel like I'm doing it all wrong. I feel, this makes me feel guilty. I feel bad about doing this. And I'm just like, pump the brakes, sister. You are crushing. Like, let's talk about what you're doing right. And let's try and help clear some of that noise. We get it from social media. We get it from influencers and celebrities. But like, this is about moms, and moms are not just like trying to take care of themselves. They're trying to take care of their kids and their family and their work and
all
of these other things. And so you're very right. That support is really important as you navigate some of these changes.
Erin, thank you. Thank you so much. Where can people go so they can get that support?
Yeah, you can find me on eringreenracing.com, or I'm active on Instagram, Nutrition in a Minute.
Wonderful, Erin, thank you. And moms, I certainly hope that we have given you at least a taste of some advice on how to navigate those menopausal years.